G'day, g'day. How's it going?
Good man, how are you?
Oh, fucked. So
Yeah,
fucked.
really? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Just ordinary shit like work has been doubling down the last few weeks. And just in time for an album release as well. So it's not a
good
quiet
man.
time.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Dude, your metal cave looks fucking unreal.
yeah,
Holy shit.
yes, man. Yeah, there's a lot of nerdy shit in here. It's fun.
Looks sick and a kit behind you as well.
Yeah, yeah, just a vacate, but it's good to play on. Yeah,
Yeah, nice one.
yeah, yeah. Well, look, thanks for chatting on a Sunday, man. Thanks for coming on.
No, pleasure.
So yeah, last time we spoke was like early 2021 about What a Time to Be Alive. And then that's the second Werewolves album, yeah. And then
Yeah.
last year, June, I spoke to Matt about From the Cave to the Grave. And then August this year, we got My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me. You guys don't muck around here.
No, man, like shit, we're all getting older, time's wasting, you got to get after it. And there's going to be a point where it's like all about walking frames and laxatives, not blasting a death metal. So yeah,
Yeah, that's good.
time's running out.
Yeah, fair enough. And the album art, it's all is that the same artist doing all those? It's all got that real extreme thing going. That's good.
Yeah, it's Tasmanian Artist Connect, Mitchell Nolte. So we've been using him every album now this time. So yeah, I think we've got a pretty good team going at the moment. Like
Yeah, yeah.
everyone's pretty reliable. They do a bang up job. They seem to get what we're after. And that's like just across the board with like production, art, like photos, film clips, the whole thing. So yeah, like we're going to keep using him for as long as he's like happy to, pound out stuff for us. I'm not sure if we've like let him in on our world conquering plan to do 10 albums in 10 years, but I hope he's up for it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So what was the theme for this one? You got a guy cutting his skin off his face in the front, and like, what was the sort of input you guys gave for this album cover?
Yeah, it's full on, isn't it? Well, the way Mitchell works, we give him the album and I give him the lyrics, but he also usually asks what's the general theme of the album, and he kind of tries to match that. And I guess the theme of this latest one is, it's called My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me, and that's just because like I've sort of noticed that a lot of like the big, huge, heavy arguments out there, usually online, but sometimes occasionally between people. Um, they're almost identical people with almost identical positions, arguing really over fucking nothing. Um, and like he's obviously taken that idea and splashed it out onto the cover of the album to like, the nth degree. For anyone who hasn't seen it, it's basically these two large crowds of people, again, identical, just massacring each other and themselves like in an orgy of hysterical violence. Every time I look at it, like, because the detail he puts into his art is sick. Like, every time I look at it, I find something new. My previous favorite thing, there was a guy like in the middle of the two groups killing himself by like basically he's got two guns or two Uzis like to his head and he's just from both sides. But then I've noticed recently on the left hand side like there's two people having a sword fight but with chainsaws. That's pretty cool. And he's usually with his artwork, he's usually got like the one big sort of like feature in there that kind of builds around it. And I know on this one he's got the guy who seems to have cut off someone else's face, plastered it over his own face, and is cutting his throat. It's changed a little bit. The original sketch he gave through it seemed to be someone who had just like put the face onto their own face and was kind of like rubbing it in like moisturizer and seemingly very pleased with themselves.
Yeah.
But evidently he thought that wasn't brutal enough, so he's chucked in the suicide by knife as well.
Yeah.
With from the cave to the grave, like the central horror of that one was like the soldier casting the baby into like a pit of corpses. So yeah, every album he does, like there's a lot of detail, but there's usually there's this one front up chunk of horror that just seems to catch everyone's eye.
Mm. Yeah, well, it'd be cool to see what number 10 looks like if it's ramped up on it, you know.
Oh, Jesus, we'll be doing he'll be doing that one probably like the way Monet closed out his career, where he basically is just like, you know, got slings and casts and he had to like tape the paintbrush to his hand to be able to do it. Like, yeah, that's probably the way we'll go out.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
The under the ground videos, you got some knuckle dragging at the start there. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that the same director and everything as all the other ones you were saying? Yeah.
No.
Okay.
We
All right.
we changed it all around this time. We had a bunch of guys that we used for like from the cave to the grave, or at least for the song Harvester of the Skulls from that one. And they were a good young crew, but like they pulled out. Yeah, I was flying from Adelaide over to Melbourne for a weekend of like doing film clips, like photo shoots and rehearsals. We basically get all the band business done in one compressed weekend for the entire year. And I think 2 or 3 days before I got over there, they pulled out. And so, what was it? I called one mate, Jimmy Harmsworth, who used to be the Bournemouth drummer, and he was the one that did the video for Destroyer of Worlds. But for the Under the Ground video, this is actually quite funny. We had Rob Brenz like shooting photos for us.
Mhm.
He's getting into photography now, and he did a really good job like lighting it up, like the really sinister, dark red lighting. And he finished taking the photos, and yeah, we're all looking at it going, these photos look really good. And then I think we just sort of went to him, hey, does that camera take video?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, why? Do you want to do a film clip? And we were like, yeah, would that be a problem? He goes, yeah, no worries. Like, what, next week or next month? And we were like, how about right now? And he's like, fucking what? So we basically shot it with the same lighting that we took those photos. And he's like, dude, I've only got like about 40 minutes of like, battery left on this. And we're like, that will be plenty, trust us. So we did that. And then I had this idea, like, it's got to start with some knuckle dragging, like, because that's our whole bit. And again, it was really funny because he's like, oh, I could get like a box of gravel and we could put it here and we could light it up. And I was like, mate, there's a car park out there. There's some gravel. We'll just push some of the cat turds out of the way.
Yeah.
You just get close up with the wall and I'll just drag it and we'll do that.
Yeah.
And I think we did about 4 takes of that. And I noticed on one of them, he just started pissing himself laughing. And I was like, right, that's the one. That's the take.
Yeah, no, that's great, man. So yeah, these are coming out through Prosthetic Records, California. Is there any chance of you guys playing stateside, or like have you played over there already? Or?
We haven't played overseas yet. Not with Werewolves. Let me see. We would love to play overseas. We're kind of like taking things really with this band step by step. Last year was about playing a show, and in pure Werewolves fashion, we kind of overshot our goal a bit there. Ended up playing a few shows across states and then one festival in Adelaide to, just as the cherry on top. This year was about maybe getting a national tour in and maybe like a big band support. And again, we're overshooting the shit out of our goals. Like we've had a Canberra Metal Fest, we've supported Mayhem and Ulcerate, like a national tour, and we've got Archspire and Ingested coming up in October. So, the point of last year was seeing if we could play a show with this material because it is pretty fucking intense. And that was all right. And then I think the thing we were trying to discover this year was, can we tour together and will it be enjoyable and profitable? And it's kind of both. So it was really surprising. You can have, in our experience, you can have guys who are good musicians and who you get along with in normal life, and you go out on the road and things change. You get mates who then, suddenly act like assholes, or, people who are solid but suddenly don't pull their weight, or ones who get on the road and want to be a total rock star and shit like that. We all seem to be on pretty much the same wavelength. Like we all put in, we're all experienced. We know what the deal is. And we did it the hard way as well. Like we were sort of like going through to a room at the Hotel Ibis at the airport, and no one's a big snorer. No one's kind of like staying up late trying to like unscrew the smoke alarm so they can like smoke bifters in the room or any shit like that. So it's this year we were just trying to see if we get along touring. We have. So now the question is like, how far do we want to take it? US may happen one day. I'd imagine Europe would probably happen before that, just because it's just easier to tee up. But also, we like festivals. We love festivals. In fact, when I started playing festivals years back, I was like, why on earth were we doing this all the time? Like as a band, you can play a 30-date tour, like where you're getting 100 people a show, or you can play one festival to 3,000 people, and then have an absolutely amazing time, and save a bit of time, save your holiday times as well. So like to me, that's always been the thing I really go for or like. But to be honest, like, we'll work it out the same way we do anything else with this band, man. We'll just try something and see.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I'm talking about holiday times. Do you ever have tough time juggling like work and the band stuff? Like, is there ever a clash, or is it all pretty manageable?
For me, it's manageable. Like, I'm lucky with my job. I've got a job which is reasonably flexible.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, I can get holiday time from there. Probably like it's more recording albums that are hard, if anything, because I try and wrap that around work without taking time off for it.
Yeah.
But Matt's sort of the same. He's got himself a job where like it affords him some time off as well. So it's kind of good. On the one hand, it's like the musician version of the golden handcuffs when things are shit at work. Like it restricts what you're able to quit and go on to. But on the other hand, it's good. And Dave doesn't have that. He doesn't have that problem getting time off at work. His only problem is getting time off from other bands and other tours. So yeah.
Cool. So the Antichrist Imperium, you guys put out Volume 3 last year with that glorious album cover.
If you thought that one was glorious, you got to see the latest one for the vinyl. Like, was the one that you saw the nun getting like molested by the vampire bats? Okay, so that's the nice cover. That's,
wow.
the one that Dave is like, and this is Dave Gray in England, not Australian Dave Haley. Like, Dave Gray is the drummer for Antichrist Imperium, but also does all the artwork. A complete fucking nutter. The one he did for the vinyl, I saw it and I was like, "There's no way we're going to ever be able to release this." It's out now, so I can actually say what it's about. I was having to be all coy before, but if you haven't seen it, it's very 2023. It's this big like demonic goat lord sitting upon an altar with massive tits and a huge erect veiny dick that two nuns are sucking off at the same time. And then there's like some more nuns scattered around all going down on each other.
Yeah.
And I saw that. I was like, that's even maybe too full on for me. But yeah, the whole idea with extreme metal is to find that like boundary and then just like fucking skip straight across it. And when I found myself like getting uncomfortable and going, "Oh, that's fucking full on, man," it didn't take me too long to go, actually, that's probably what we want. We do want something that's that taboo and transgressive. So it's out now. God help everyone.
Nice.
The artwork is up, I think, on the Bandcamp site.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
If anyone wants to write like, an I'm offended letter or tweet to them.
Is Antichrist Imperium ever in the same room? Like, or have you guys always sending files and that kind of thing?
It's always sending files. Like myself and Matt have been like over to England, like on separate trips, over the last few years, where I'll catch up with like one or two of the guys. But like that thing's always done sort of by post or by email. The single time we've all been in the same room together at the same time was the very first time I ever got involved with it, which is, I think, 2014. Matt and Dave had like written, I think Matt had written a whole bunch of material for Akakoka that never got used because they went on that sort of hiatus. And he didn't want it to go to waste. So he and Dave decided to do this side project of like this unused Akakoki material. And they had Sam Loynes already lined up to do sort of like the melodic vocals, but they kept on trying to line up guys to do, the brutal sort of death metal vocals for it. And they kept getting stiffed. And I was on holidays over in England, and I was actually staying with Matt for a few days, and he was pretty cool about it. He was like, dude, would you be into doing some, I know it's your holidays and you're on holidays and you're trying to rest and relax. Would you be into doing some like, vocals on an album? And I was like, yeah, fucking hell yeah. This is fun. Like,
Yeah.
And yeah, I rolled into the same studio that we used to rehearse like at for the UK Berserker tours, and and caught up with Dave and Sam, and like Dave had like this 10 pages of just like pure filth written out, but like hadn't arranged it or worked out which song they were to go for. And I was just like, all right, like, which song is this, where do you need the vocals? And they'd just point, and I'd just like go through it. And I think the very first vocals or lyrics I did, they were, the very first lines were anointing the face, the eyes, and the face. And I was like, yeah, I know what you're about. Yeah, this is your wheelhouse for sure. But since then, there hasn't been a time where we've all been together in the same room. To probably answer the next question, which is, are you guys going to play live?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
we'd need a fan to win the lottery and be very set on like putting us together in a room for like a month to be able to do it. It's stuff like Werewolves, like it's very straightforward for how hard it is. It's fucking very straightforward, and it's just a matter for me of like just rehearsing it. It's more like an athletic feat than like a memorization one. But the Antichrist Imperium is like, it's very involved. There's a lot of different instrumentation through it. It's complicated. Some of the songs go for 10 minutes. That would require in-person rehearsing, like fairly extensive. So, oh no, man.
Yeah, that's cool. And what about another release? Like, is there a plan for one coming up, or you just kind of see what happens?
It's very much see what happens. Like, with the last Antichrist Imperium album, like that was a real hard one to do. It took quite a few years. And it really felt like something like Werewolves. It just honestly feels like, a greased pig on skids, just, something like Antichrist Imperium quite often feels like Sisyphus getting that boulder up the hill. It's hard shoving, and there's no point where it just starts rolling of its own accord. And, it's so, and it probably doesn't help that last Antichrist Imperium album as well, we think is like the best one that we've done by far. And the idea of trying to top that, I don't know, man. I don't know if we can. I don't know if we can. If you see another Antichrist Imperium album, that means we've decided, we've found a way to do better. And I can only imagine what that would look like.
Yeah, very cool. I guess away from your own stuff, what have you been listening to these days?
Oh God. To be honest, like, I listen to a lot of chill out stuff. Like, if there's, for me, trying to relax is like number one on my list of things to do. I've been listening to, there's a couple of things. There's a Sigur Rós album called Liminal, and Liminal number 2, which I listen to. It's very formless, soundscapey kind of stuff. There's also one of the guys from at Yonzi. He did a piece, I think for the New York Art Museum called Obsidian, like which was during COVID. He was apparently homesick for Iceland, so he did like a large soundscape. But then sort of like had a spherical room built that you sit in, which is speakers over every entire surface. So it's truly like surround sound.
Yeah.
And you listen to this kind of like 56-minute long piece, kind of like sitting in there. So I've been listening to that a bit. I've gone back to Deftones, surprisingly enough. Yeah. I didn't listen, like, I hated Koi no Yokan. I thought that was a boring fucking album and a lot of really awkward material on there. So I didn't listen to Gore or Ohms, and I only got into those like earlier this year, and I'm enjoying those. Like that's pretty good. I haven't been listening to much extreme stuff, I must admit. Occasionally, like Matt or Dave will send something through, and I'll give it a listen and enjoy it. But it's not something I return to too much.
Yeah.
Nothing has really beaten for me like Achilles Melinoe last year. To me, that was I can just marinate in that. I think for a good like few years. And what Anil Nathrak were doing, like sort of like through their career, like I've been going in sort of like to some of their earlier stuff that I didn't listen to that much, like When Fire Rains from the Sky, Mankind Will Reap What Is Sown, and Eschaton. I didn't really, I think I skipped straight past those, and I'm going back and like giving those a listen to now.
Yeah.
It's not a huge amount of modern stuff I listen to. I suck.
Yeah, doesn't have to be modern. It's fine.
I know there's a lot of good stuff, but like I think I've just hit that age where you just don't care anymore. And to be honest, I'm making so much music, and like a lot of my life now is just like listening to what we're writing and then trying to arrange and stick vocals and scream over the top and figure it out. Like the spare time I get, I'm just like no metal. It was funny playing with Exhumes the other week in Melbourne, because like when they've been on this big months-long tour now around the world, and they were chilling upstairs at the Bendigo Hotel, but they've basically got this this blues, funk, soul, R&B kind of like mix just going, and it was packed with metalheads up on the top floor, not just their band, but everyone was sort of like enjoying it and going, actually, yes, this is really good to listen to, like in between getting our face sanded off by everyone else playing.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. So obviously Werewolves have got a bunch of shows coming up. Are we going to have another solid Werewolves album in our laps this time next year? Like, is that turnaround?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm actually doing the I was meant to have the vocals finished by now. Like I was meant to record those the other week. The fellow I was recording with, Jack, like unfortunately came down ill, so that will be in 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, cool.
And that's the last thing to do for the album, apart from like samples and getting it mixed and mastered.
Yeah.
But been working on that for quite a bit, and people are probably going, well, what's that like? I can probably tell you already that My Enemies Look and Sound Like Me is fucking brutal, but it's also pretty dark. Like it's got its kind of like little funny pun moments that we kind of do. But it's a dark album. You get to the end of it and you sort of probably like sit back and go, okay, steady on, Jesus. The next one, which it doesn't have a title yet, but the next one I can already kind of see that it's almost like death metal anthems. It's slightly more straightforward, slightly more simple, but it's probably a bucket load more catchy as well. Like, there's definitely don't aim for it, but like I'm looking at sort of like how the vocals are turning out for that, and there's a lot of sing-along kind of stuff on that, like that people probably want to like, chant while throwing glasses at each other.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, because cool, because the other stuff has elements of that, but yeah, it'll be interesting to hear like more of that, I guess, like yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's still aggressive and horrible, and like, all the rest of it has plenty of dark moments. But yeah, I did notice, there's plenty of chanting along sort of moments that are popping up, like, and that just seems to be how it's turned out for this album. I've sort of made a point, because like Matt and Dave are so prolific, they'd do an album a month if like, no one was holding them back. No one being me. It's like, where I'm kind of like, I try and do the lyrics and vocals about a year apart, so that the vibe changes just a little bit. It's still all very much Werewolves, but I think like with the stuff we do, we really run the risk of like each album sounding exactly like the previous one.
Sure.
Give it a year though, things change a little bit, and that's how this is kind of like changed this time. It's like, big black and towering death metal anthems, as opposed to just like an absolute hideous black traumatizing onslaught, which is kind of what we were going for with album 4.
Yeah, cool. No, that sounds good, man. And Prosthetic Records are happy. They're like, yeah, keep them coming.
Yeah, it's one of those rare cases where we're both really happy with each other. In fact,
cool.
Having said that, like, I know that a lot of the prosthetic bands are happy as well, like to be on that label. Like I know Pupil Slicer and Undeath are like, they're pleased as punch. They're doing really well out of it, and the label's happy with them. They're kind of like, everyone seems to be the same mindset of like really getting after it. And I can't think of another label that would be happy to do 10 releases in 10 years. And the times where we've done like things where we release stuff through direct merch, such as some of the merch line. We also did the death metal EP with like the 2 originals, 2 covers.
Yep.
I know a lot of labels would be like, no, you're not doing that. But they've been pretty good with it. They've also been considering how hard we go. They've been pretty hands off. I do give them veto over what I do. I give Matt and Dave veto as well. Like, when I come up with album titles, song titles, lyrics, and all the rest of it, I turn the filter right off, and they're the guys that stop us from getting cancelled, basically. But they do that with the lightest of touches. So no, there's definitely some mutual appreciation going on there. It's a good label to be on, and I guess I'm at that point in the career where I know what it's like to be on a label where things aren't working out. So yeah, I'm pretty grateful.
Yeah, awesome, man. Cool. Well, look, Sam, thanks heaps for your time. Good to chat again, and I'm sure you have a blast with these huge shows coming up, man. It's good. Yeah.
Oh, dude. Yeah. No, thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure speaking. I hope to bump into you at some point, get a show over there. But
yeah, we want it, man. We're keen for sure over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, 2024 is coming, so we'll see what that holds.
Yeah, good. Too easy, man. All right, have a good one.
Will do. Cheers.
Bye.